And good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. And happy, very belatedly, to have alongside today Tayt Brooks, St. Albans town resident for forever, Tayt. And you're still in the town, right?
No, I'm actually in the city.
I think maybe somebody mentioned that to me.
That's all right.
You've been
That's
in the
all right.
city. A St. Albans guy for a long time. And
Correct.
Tayt, of course, is Deputy Secretary of the Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And Tayt, sounds like you've had a very impressive career in state government. Good for you. Still going strong, I guess, huh?
Well, I had the opportunity to serve late in Governor Douglas's term as the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development. And then when Governor Scott was elected and took office in January of 2017, I served with him as a senior advisor in the governor's office, did that for the first 5 years. And then there was an opportunity to go back to the Agency of Commerce and Community Development with the Deputy Secretary position, and was happy to jump in and fill that role.
Lindsay Curley, is she the secretary, or am I off on that?
No, you're spot on. Secretary Lindsay Curley is the current secretary for the agency. Yes.
Interesting. Boy, so, and going back further than that, you did log some time in Montpelier as a legislator. Correct? Or
No,
not quite.
No, not quite.
Am I going back to a recount with Ron Allard, maybe?
Okay,
or?
so yes, well, okay.
So you just missed logging time.
That good memory, Richard.
No, but
in
that
fact,
was a bad memory. I wasn't sure if you had made it or not. I know how close you came.
so my first kind of pull into politics came, I think, in 1998.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it was a race between Ron Allard and myself.
Ron being the incumbent at that point.
Correct. And I lost by a handful of votes. In fact, Richard, I remember speaking to you that evening, back when you were still working for WWSR.
Yeah.
And we ended up having a recount.
Yeah.
But Representative Allard prevailed in the recount. And that's what kind of, frankly, pulled me into public service at the time. And then from there, ended up serving on the St. Albans Town Select Board for a number of years.
Okay. So when did you move from the town to the city, Tayt?
2004.
Oh, God, sorry. It was way.
That's okay.
21 years ago. But you're a St. Albans native?
So, yeah, I grew up in the town of St. Albans. Grew up on a dairy farm on Bronson Road. My parents actually still reside there.
Really? Great.
So still make it down there very frequently. And yeah, certainly enjoy Franklin County, enjoy having a family here and raising a family here. So, yeah.
And you've been more than good to us. Again, you have a much higher profile here at Northwest Access TV than myself. We were talking off air. You were doing stuff for my old radio station of about 20 years, WWSR.
Yeah.
And they kind of faded away, and you ended up jumping over to with these guys.
Well, a name that you certainly know well, Phil Knight,
in fact, Phil was up to. Did you happen to see him this summer?
I haven't seen Phil in years, so next time you see him, please tell him I said hello.
He'll be up next summer. In fact,
All
I
right.
did my southern trip, hit the road for about a month in April, and catch some sports down south, and always stop and see Phil and Joan in their beautiful New Bern, North Carolina home.
Wow.
Southbound, but he'll be up next summer, so I'll catch up with him next summer.
For sure.
But yeah, great guy.
So I went to school with his son.
No,
Jason.
Poor Jason's done very well for himself.
Yeah.
As you have.
And so after graduating from St. Lawrence University and being back here locally, I played high school football for BFA and played some at St. Lawrence University.
Is that right? You played some football then?
Yeah. Before I started having a shoulder issue, which caused an early retirement in that sport. But knowing Phil, and he was still at WWSR, the general manager at the time. There was, I'm not sure why there was an opening, but our old friend, another name from the past, Steve Turkletop, Turk Stevens.
Turk. Do you know what's happening? That's funny. I think of the Turk once in a while, and I've got no clue. Do you know what he's up to? I last left him out in Los Angeles or California
I think
years ago.
I think what I pieced together over a period of time, we're taking a trip down memory lane here.
Okay.
Turk is, I believe, somewhere out west, maybe in the Las Vegas area. And he did. You're right. Had a run there with Fox Sports Radio.
Yeah.
And I think he may be a physical education teacher. But I think that's what I kind of pieced
'Cause
together.
I know,
over
I know
years.
he had been doing some teaching way back when too.
But I haven't.
Great,
I
former
haven't.
voice of the UVM hockey catamounts.
Yeah, for years, and then obviously starting here locally with in St. Albans. So, anyways,
Yeah.
Turk was the play-by-play guy. I got pulled in to do the color commentating. So, Turk was a great mentor. Frankly, on that end, he went to the University of Maine, I think specifically for that work, and learned a lot from him. I had an opportunity to work with him for at least 2 years, maybe 3, and then I think that's when he went to work for VMT, WVMT 620, doing UVM hockey and other sports. And from there, I shifted over to take over the play-by-play duty for BFA football. So I've been doing that again since 1999.
Boy, really, that's really impressive. We certainly appreciate your effort. Nice to see the BFA football Bobwhites have even won a couple games.
They've got a couple of wins. They got a big game coming up against Mount Mansfield this Friday. But it's been interesting to see the involvement. Again, from radio, and now with Northwest Access TV with multiple cameras, replay availability. So it's really a treat to do.
Interesting. In fact, I'm interviewing later this morning Mayor Tim Smith, and I know his son Duffy, and I caught a TD pass a couple games ago, and it's had hopefully a pretty good season.
Duffy is a junior, so he's looking obviously to build this year. I think the team will be much improved even next season. A lot of the players are juniors. It's a very junior-heavy class. So some real opportunity next year, but Duffy Smith certainly has been their leading receiver. Had a big touchdown catch a week ago against the Burlington Seawolves, and had a big catch in their first game of the season against North Country, a come from behind victory, where they brought the ball down the field in the last minute. And came from behind to win. So, it's a few more wins this year than last year, and certainly I would say they're building on things and feeling optimistic for next season would be my guess.
That's great. I should know we're taping this show on Wednesday, October 22nd, in case there's some earth-shaking news that happens after the show that we haven't spoken about. Tay, let's talk about your job. Again, Deputy Secretary, Vermont Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And actually, the remote worker situation comes right to mind. The governor having recently kind of given out a directive, whatever, saying, hey, folks, time to come back to work, at least 3 days a week, and running into some resistance from the union. What about yourself? Do you do some remote work from St. Albans, or are you always heading to Montpelier?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. Both in Montpelier. Example, I'll be back down in Montpelier tomorrow. Depending upon meetings, places we have to go, sometimes have to go up to Newport or Burlington, But yes, on December 1st, we'll have folks in 3 days a week. I would say the Agency of Commerce and Community Development is in a pretty good shape on that front. As an example, we have our Department of Housing and Community Development. They already have folks in person a couple of days a week. So we've been working with our commissioners, and we feel like we're in a good shape for the first of
How many
December.
employees with your agency?
Yeah, so we have approximately 108 employees. That number will fluctuate some, but just for folks' awareness, the agency is broken down. Our largest department is Department of Housing and Community Development, and so we have an opportunity to work with mayors, city councils, folks in the housing world. We have the Department of Economic Development. And again, obviously, we have an opportunity to work with Tim Smith, not just as his role as mayor, but also in his role as the head of FCIDC. And we work with the other regional development corporations around the state. They're really our eyes and ears on the ground out there. And then our smallest department is the Department of Tourism and Marketing. That keeps us, as one could probably imagine, circulating around the state.
Is each day of your work life different? I mean, you've got all kinds of different things. That's a lot.
It
sounds
is.
like a lot of issues just in your. And that sounds like a relatively small Department of State, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're not the size of like the Agency of Human Services or VTrans. But it's nice, to have that diversity, and frankly, I think trying to make a positive impact in people's lives. So, that's one reason I was kind of drawn back to the agency. After about 5 years in working in the governor's office, is I kind of saw the agency as the agency of good news. Whether it be through community development, and again, working with communities to better where people live and work, to working with companies directly to provide for greater economic opportunity, whether expansion or relocation. When the governor came into office, one point that he really tried to hammer home is the relationship with Canada and specifically Quebec. We have approximately 64 companies in Vermont that are from Canada.
And certainly Franklin County, in my many years here, just seems like a typical new company coming into Franklin County has been Quebec-based.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Franklin County, and obviously the Northeast Kingdom as well, if you're talking about like the Newport area and St. Johnsbury area, have some real attributes. One of the biggest being is just location, especially when here in Franklin County, we're approximately an hour from Montreal.
And in fact, I think you were, some of our communications, not too often in the past, have been keeping me posted on the construction of the new interstate-like highway. It seems like you would check in with me on that once. And that final segment has been completed, or?
So
I'm hearing mixed things about that.
Approximately a month ago, the Quebec government, Transport Quebec, announced the opening of the third phase of Autoroute 35. As originally designed, it was designed to be 4 phases to kind of take you from Iberville all the way to the Highgate land port of entry.
Just right to the border, pretty much.
And so during the Shumlin administration, the Quebec government finished up phases 1 and 2, and that's where folks for a number of years now have been driving on Route 133 and hopping on in Pike River.
I know it well.
And going and heading north from there.
Yeah.
A month ago, they just completed what was indicated as phase 3. So that's an additional approximately 5 to 6 miles that takes you now straight on to Route 133, and 133 turns right into Autoroute 35. Now,
so there is another phase to be done?
So I think there's an open question on that. In the announcement from Quebec, they indicated it was the final phase. The fourth phase, and as was expressed to us, just for awareness, the provincial government in Quebec is having some financial challenges. They have about a $5 billion deficit.
Yeah.
And so when they were working through their budget, they were looking for changes and cuts.
Yeah.
And so from what we understand, that fourth and final phase was kind of shelved. That's something that may come back at some point in time. But
how many miles in that fourth phase?
I think it's probably like 3 miles.
Just another few miles.
And I guess the reason I say, they announced it as the final, and it certainly may be the final because that stretch of 133, which Richard, you said quite well, is still four lanes.
Of course, I remember in the old days anyway. Part of it were 3. Maybe some of it were still 3 lanes in the old days.
So if you looked at the plans for the fourth and final phase, it was basically kind of moving Route 133 over and having some of those secondary roads tie in. So you have a few of those secondary roads that tie in to those 4 lanes right now. It's very functional the way it is. Whether that fourth or final phase ever gets done, who knows? But it's certainly very functional at this point in time.
And as you said, it's pretty easy. And the ride to Montreal is pretty easy. I end up going to the airport a lot, and I hate that place. Just the Route 20, you get to Champlain Bridge in an hour, and then good luck getting out to the airport. But why am I even going there? Boy, as we talk about Quebec and Canada, Tayt, just a tariff issue from the president just seems like, to me, a chaotic situation. But clearly, I listen to CJAD, the still great Montreal radio station, and the bitterness I'm hearing about not U.S. folks. I'm always hearing, hey, we were in Vermont, loved the people and stuff, but the bitterness is really strong. And that is I mean, hurting Vermont significantly, or am I overstating that?
Well,
Just with the lack, I mean, tourism is, I mean, folks coming south from Quebec is way down, right?
yeah, I mean, the governor was very clear. The comments from the president in regards to Canada referencing the 51st state were extremely unhelpful, and Canadians, rightfully so, were upset by that. And you know, the tariff situation is obviously an ongoing conversation. You know, at the end of the day, Canada is Vermont's largest trade partner. Our trade is about $3 billion. Wow. You know, as I mentioned, there were 65 companies from Canada with Canadian ties in Vermont. You know, the governor, when he came in, wanted to strengthen that relationship. I mean, he saw that Vermont and Quebec, frankly, have a very unique relationship. A lot of people may or may not be aware. He participated in a number of races. You know, people think of Thunder Road, they think of Phil Scott. But not only did he race in the States, he also raced throughout Quebec and Ontario.
Really? I don't think I knew that.
Not just in auto cars, but on snowmobiles as well.
Really? I didn't know that.
And so
is he still doing racing? Is that
he still races occasionally at Thunder Road, correct. Wow. But the governor, you know, frankly, had some relationships up in Quebec, and has really tried to highlight and strengthen those relationships. And so, you know, the governor's been very clear that those comments were not helpful. The tariffs on our friends are not helpful, especially again how intertwined our various economic sectors are. Sure. So whether it be the aerospace sector or the semiconductor sector, you know, think about IBM and Broma, obviously Global Foundries here in Vermont. You think about Beta Technologies with their facility down in Chittenden County, the facility.
Presence here in St. Albans.
Presence here at the former Energizer plant in St. Albans on the battery front, but they also have a presence up in Montreal as well. So there's some real synergies there and some real opportunity. I did just see yesterday, and I think it was in the Globe and Mail, that there may be a potential announcement in the next week to 10 days in South Korea between the president and the prime minister on a potential U.S.-Canadian trade deal. So, you know, we'll see. But even while things have been a challenge at the federal level, I mean, the governor has encouraged us to continue to have communication and to continue to build upon the relationships that we have at the provincial level and at the local level. You know, just about 3 weeks to a month ago, there were a few of us that were up in Newport who met with members of parliament, met with mayors, and met with other Canadian businesses to really try to strengthen those ties. And again, recognizing while there may be some friction at the federal level, you know, we have a responsibility here at the local level to continue to foster those relationships and build those relationships. I know you made mention on the tourism front. So yes, in fact, you know, Canadian tourism represents about 5% of tourism here in Vermont.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
But what's important to highlight on that front, and so 5% for some folks may not seem like a rather large number, but what won't surprise you, that differs across the state. So in northern Vermont, Canadian trade is around 30%. Wow. So the impact where we have seen a decrease in Canadians coming down over the summer and fall, it's been a decrease of about 30%. Wow. You know, certainly has been impactful here, both in Franklin County, but I think of also up in the Northeast Kingdom, such as like Jay Peak.
Which gets about, what, half their business from Quebec? And I guess Steve Wright, is it Steve Wright?
It is Steve Wright.
Testified before Congress a while back.
Correct. Yeah, Steve has been very active. You know, my understanding is Steve has actually personally been on the phones calling season ticket holders or who I think, if I recall correctly, you know, 95 to 100% of their American season pass holders renewed. But,
Yeah.
looking back at the summertime, hopefully it's been, they've made some progress. It was only like half of the Canadians had renewed. But I know, Steve was personally making those phone calls, and, what I heard from him is, again, the president's rhetoric was just what Canadians, frankly, rightfully heard was very offensive to them.
Yeah.
So, it's going to take time, and it's going to take, again, outreach from, state leaders, local and community leaders to make sure to continue those relationships.
Tate, the federal government shut down now, 3 weeks plus? Any obvious effect on Vermont or anything you're dealing with at this point, or not? Not really. It looks like no end in sight. This thing looks like it could go on for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, we have programs within the HC of Commerce where we have the Community Development Block Grant Program. That's a federal program. We've pulled down those federal dollars, so right now we're not seeing that direct impact. I mean, we do have conversations with EDA, with USDA. We're not able to have those conversations right now with people furloughed. So that makes things a little bit more challenging. Obviously, we're hoping for a resolution sooner rather than later. So we've been able to manage thus far. But we hope there can be a resolution here soon.
Yeah, wanted to mention briefly, I mentioned Dustin Degree off the air, folks. A lot of folks around here remember Dustin, who was indeed a former legislator here. But again, he's got a key role in the Scott administration now.
Yeah,
has for a while.
Yeah, Dustin is the communications director for Governor Scott. And again, I guess to show my age as well, I was actually calling football games when he was playing football.
Oh, is that when he was playing?
Yeah, back when he was playing for BFA St. Albans.
Sounds like he, like you, has done very well with a good state government career. Boy, and I love the timing. I'm hearing more and more, and you're on top of all this stuff. But Mike Pichak, the state treasurer, a pretty visible guy, and seems like increasing speculation that he's may well be a candidate for governor next year. And of course, I'm hearing that, and it sounds like a pretty popular guy. Hearing that as yet another poll comes out showing Governor Scott about or the most popular governor in the country. And I know Governor Scott typically will not say really a word about whether he's going to run again until after the legislative session of the election year. Is that any insight?
No insight.
You'd like to think the governor would run for.
I defer to the governor. I mean, that's a tough job. I mean, it really is. It's 24/7.
And of course, Vermont and New Hampshire, as some folks may not know, the only two states left with 2-year gubernatorial terms.
That's right. That's true.
Next election never far away.
Next election is next year. It will be a busy year regardless. Vermont, we were just talking a little bit briefly off air. The governor's heading up to Newfoundland, Labrador for the New England Governors Eastern Canar's Premier's Conference in mid-November.
They do that. That's a yearly. That's an annual conference.
That's an annual conference, and the governor this year is co-chair. And what that means is next year that conference will be in Vermont.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
So I would just indicate.
Cool.
So next year, regardless what's going on, next year is going to be a busy year.
Oh, well, sounds like a. How often do you deal? You deal with the governor personally, once in a while, or not too often?
Well, I certainly dealt with him more often when I was in the governor's office on a daily basis.
Sure.
But as deputy secretary, certainly less frequently.
Does he get together routinely with the secretaries? Or?
Yeah, so the governor meets weekly with his secretary. So Secretary Curley meets with him. Typically, cabinet meets every Tuesday morning with the governor.
Yeah.
And some of the extended cabinet less frequently. I have an opportunity to meet with the governor typically either every week or every other week on the housing front.
Yeah.
So I kind of lead. It was weekly. Now we've gone to an every week basis, meeting with the governor on housing and providing various updates and information on that front. So still have an opportunity to see him, interact with him frequently, yes.
Boy, housing, Tate, we could be talking hours about housing. What a huge issue. And the
whole nother show.
The statistic I see, Vermont ideally could use, the stat, 40,000 or so housing units. Is that like 10, 20 years? But
We're
good
20
luck.
years.
I mean, that seems so... good luck with that. Is that possibly realistic to you?
I think it's realistic. I mean, that's certainly the need, and I think that's what we need to work towards. We made some progress this past session working with the legislature.
Some progress anyway.
Yeah, on the infrastructure side. So we have what's called the CHIP program, the Community Housing and Infrastructure Program. That's going to provide $2 billion in infrastructure opportunity here over the next 20 years, and that's significant.
Yeah.
It's based upon kind of the TIF model that folks around St. Albans would be familiar with. In fact, City Manager Dom McLeod went down and testified on behalf of that. So we're very thankful for Dom to be involved in showing the real positive nature on TIF on that front. So certainly on the infrastructure side, we've made some improvement. I think we still have some more, I know we still have some more work to do on the regulatory side of things. And so we'll be, working again with the legislature this coming winter and spring to try to address that.
Well, as an outside observer, as I mentioned, whenever I talk to legislators, just the issues Vermont is facing just seem overwhelming to me. You're a key guy in state government, so I suspect you would not maybe use that word, but and education, another, Act 73, again, years down the road before we see how that plays out, but just sounds like a lot of tough issues. In your years in state government, have things gotten, I don't know, tougher, more complicated, or not especially used to dealing with what you have to deal with?
At the end of the day, I think the challenges, there's always challenges, right? And the challenges just differ from time to time.
Yeah.
A lot of the challenge, kind of ties back into our demographics and the real demographic challenges that we have in Vermont, being an older state.
With a lot of old people like me around here.
You and me both.
Well,
and again, not having the housing supply needed to really welcome in and bring in folks to live and stay permanently here in Vermont to assist us to, pay more taxes and
and the affordability issue. Certainly, Republicans made hay with that issue in the last election. Got knocked out the Democratic supermajority in the legislature. But yeah, plenty down to about 40 seconds. Plenty of challenges, but sounds like you're still pretty happy with what you're doing. And
I thoroughly enjoy working with Governor Scott and Secretary Curley. It's a real pleasure to work with folks across the state, including here in our area, on these challenges. And, folks are generally all trying to pull in the same direction. And, certainly optimistic about our future.
Yeah, so for those folks, anyway, I guess we'll leave it on that positive note.
Okay.
Tayt, great to see you. Sorry, you should have been in here years ago, and I'd love to regularly sit down with you. And after the event coming up in Eastern Canada, I'd love to grab you back in here about that.
Sure, happy to.
Thanks a lot. Tayt Brooks, the Deputy Secretary of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. Thanks for guesting with us. Thanks to producer Paul Snyder. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time here on NWA TV. See ya.